the cloud. All right, I just started recording it. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. All right. Okay, so Flask. All right, let's go ahead and do the Flask. Oops. Let me see. All right, so I'm gonna make this directory called study. All right. Okay, so to do Flask, I usually will do a couple of things. All right. The first thing is I am going to set up my Python virtual environment. So I'm going to do Python 3 -m venv. This is just so I can make sure I have all of the modules that I need. Okay. Once I've installed my virtual environment, I'm going to activate it. All right, so it's now active, and now I can go ahead and pip install Flask, because that is what I'm going to need. All right, and so if I were to go ahead and create a file called app.py, all right, does anybody remember what needs to go in here to make a Flask application? This is how it's going to be. Okay, so we're going to go from Flask lowercase import like that, right? And then we're going to have app equals Flask, and we're going to pass in. You can use the underscore name or whatever, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to put in whatever. Okay. All right. And then does anybody else remember what's next? At app.root, right? You have this kind of stuff. That's where you have to define functions. Okay. And I can put in something like print welcome to this great app. Okay. So that is, again, a basic Flask app that really doesn't do anything interesting or exciting. Okay. And so now that we've created this, okay, I am going to go ahead and run this. So okay, and then you do Flask run minus reload. Okay, and oh, I've got an invalid syntax because I've been doing too much Java programming. So instead of a curly braces here, you don't use those in Python. Okay, that's the way it should look. Okay. All right, so now it's running. And if I take this URL right here, copy and paste it, and stick it in my browser, okay, I get some kind of an error. So I have some sort of syntax error. So it says the view function for foo did not return a valid response. Yep, that's because in foo, I don't need to print something. I need to actually return this. Okay. So do that. All right. And now if I go ahead and refresh this page, see, I get welcome to this great Flask app. Okay, so that's like the minimum basic stuff that you need in order to make a Flask app. Okay, and I can make as many of these roots as I want, right? So like I could copy these lines right here, and I'll make this /blah, and I can say, you know, here is another thing in this Flask app. Okay, so if I save that, now my normal, oops, what I do? Oh yeah, I defined this twice. A different function name. Okay, so now that I have that, okay, so I have one endpoint that's just slash. All right, and that's where I get this welcome to this great Flask app, right? Because you'll notice that my URL doesn't have anything there. And then I have a second endpoint, all right, right here with slash blah. So if I go ahead and append in a slash blah to the URL, okay, then it gets that function. Here's another thing in this Flask app, okay? All right, so that's all I've done. Okay, so now going back to the quiz. So the quiz says, given a file, football.txt, that contains football players' name, number, and weight, okay? So imagine I had a text file that had this in here, okay? This is saying to create a Flask application with two endpoints, get number and get weight, okay? These numbers should match what is asked for in the previous question. So in the previous question, if you do get weight, then it is basically saying it's going to return all of this data in JSON format, right? And same thing for this get number. So it's like number is the key and then the player's name is the value. Okay, and then here the player's name is the key and the weight is the value. Okay, so for this one, it's got the player's name, the number, and the weight. All right. Get number should return a JSON dictionary where the key is the yeah, this is what I just said. You may not hard code in any values. Assume that the input file football.txt can contain any number of players. All player names and numbers are unique. Okay. So basically all I have to do is I know I'm going to need some kind of code to read in this information, right? And stick it into some data structures. All right. So if I do my, my with open, what was the name of the text file? Football.txt. Okay. So football.txt R as F. Okay. Lines equals F dot read lines. All right. So this is the same stuff that we've been doing. Right. Lines is this empty list. And now we have lines equals, okay. So now we have all the lines. Okay. And then what I need to do is I need to go through and stick them into data structures, right? So for line in lines, okay? And I'm gonna need two data structures. I need a by number, which is this dictionary, and a by, well, I guess one is by number and the other is by name, right? Because I'll have number and then I'll have name and then weight. We have a by number and then we have a by name. Okay. All right. So I'll do line equals line dot split or a strip to get rid of the new line. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and split it on the commas. So I can say vals equals line dot split on the comma, right? Now I've converted this into individual elements, and then I can do by number. All right. And so by number is going to be so the 0th item is the player's name right here. And the first one is the player's number. Okay. So this is going to be vals sub 0, or sorry, vals sub 1. Okay. And I want so the key is going to be the number, the value is the name, so that's going to be val sub 0. Like that. Okay, and then by name is going to be val sub 0, because that's the first item here in my list. All right, and that's going to be vals sub 2 is going to be the weight. Okay. And so then all I have to do now that I have all of those things in here is instead of returning, I'll just leave these the way that I have here. So I need an app.root for /get number. Okay. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return, basically, I'm just going to return the entire thing by number. Okay. And for this one, wait, I'm going to return by name. Okay. So this is what you should have had for the quiz. Okay, something similar to this. All right. Now, in order to prove that this actually works, I'm going to have to go create a football.txt file. Okay. So let me do that really quick. I will just copy the information right here. Let's stick it into this file. Get rid of these spaces here so I don't have weird spaces. All right, so now I've got a football.txt. I've got this. Okay, so let's see if I've made any mistakes. So if I go in here and I say get number, okay, looks like I've made a mistake somewhere. Oh, I've got some indenting problems. All right, so let's see. Let's see what my indenting problems are. Oh, yeah, these are dumb. I didn't actually put in a function name here. Obviously, I need to do that. So def get number and def get. Okay, so there's my function names, and then there's what it returns. All right, so that's that. And there we go. So for get number, we have the number is the key and the person's name is the value. And then for get weight, you have the player's name is the key and their weight is the value. Okay, so that is how you should have solved that question. Okay, basically you have a little bit of code in here to go fill out these things. Now, you didn't necessarily have to do it up here above the app.routes. You could have done it inside the app.routes, but that's basically all there is. I mean, going through and parsing stuff out of a file, we've done now a bunch of times in this class. So I think that we should know how to do that by now, hopefully. Okay, so that's the question about Flask. All right, now as far as HTTP goes, okay, HTTP is pretty simple. I guess we'll go ahead and answer the question about HTTP that was in here. All right. So in this case, we have an HTTP endpoint, blah.com/get numbers that returns the stuff in JSON format. Okay. Does anybody remember how to call, how to make HTTP calls? I'm just going to assume nobody's going to bother to answer, so fine. I'm going to just import requests. Okay. And then basically what we're going to do is R equals, you know what? I'm going to put this in a different file, I think. I'm going to stop this server from running because we're done with that. All right, so I'm going to just make a new file called blah.py. We're going to import requests. Okay, and so I can do R equals requests.get. All right, and then here's where you would put in the endpoint, blah.com/get number. Okay, and then usually what we do is we check for a status code, right? Do you guys remember this from the assignments? Here, let me pull up one of the Assignment 11. Okay, so if we scroll down here to our click handler, see how we did the request.get, and then this is where we look for that status code of 200. Okay, so if we have the status code of 200, then we can get the r.text value. Okay, so in this case, right, we're going to do something like if r.status code equals 200. All right, then, you know, results equals. Okay, and now what does this question ask us to do with the results? The data is returned as a Python dictionary. Okay. Write a program that will grab the data from both endpoints and combine it together. Okay, yeah. So, all right, so we're going to need to actually parse this text into JSON, right? So I'm going to need to import JSON. Okay. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my JSON equals, and it's JSON.loads, and then I'll be results. Okay. So now I actually have a Python object, okay, a dictionary of, in this case, I have, I guess, get number returns, get numbers returns the number followed by the person's name. Okay. And so I do the same thing again. I can copy all of this code. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to be doing get weight. Right. And I think I'm going to change it to this. I'll say number JSON equals none. And I'm going to change this to number JSON. All right. And then we'll have weight JSON equals none. Change this to weight JSON. Okay. And so now the question is, all right, well, now how do I go ahead and combine these together to get this data right here? Okay. Well, I can start by looping through my get. I can start by looping through what I got right here, right? Because I know the first thing that I need is the number, right? So I can say, you know, for I in number JSON. Okay. And so in this case, what would happen is, I'm gonna just put in a comment right here. Okay, I will be the first key, which in this case would be the number 4, right? So it would be 4. All right. And so then I can use that number 4 to, so I'll do it like this. I can say the value, so like the player name is going to be I, or it's going to be number JSON I, right? So I is the number 4, number JSON I is going to be the player's name. So Taylor Heineke, right? Okay. Now that I have the player's name, okay, I can go ahead and use that to look up what I got here to get his weight, right? So now I can say player weight equals weight JSON, and then here I'm going to use player name, right? So I'm going to get that key. I'm going to use the key is the player's name, and the player's name is what I got from the value of that first number JSON. Okay. So now that I've got this weight, then all I have to do is just print out I, comma, player weight. Okay, so that's it. All right, that's the whole question. You make the 2 HTTP calls, and then you write a loop to combine the 2 together. All right, that's basically it. Okay. So Does that answer the questions on how to do those quiz problems? All right, great. Okay, does anybody, sure, no problem. Does anybody have any other questions about the exam or anything you want me to go over before we're finished, or is this plenty? Anyone? I don't hear anybody saying anything, and I don't hear anybody writing anything into the chat. So can you go over duck typing and multi-classes? Just a quick example. Sure, I can do that. So I'm going to start with duck typing. Okay. So I'm not going to launch into a long discussion about duck typing. Just create a file called duck.py. Mainly when we were dealing with duck typing, we were talking about writing a contains operator to handle the in function, right? So if you remember, we had an assignment where we drew like a circle and then we randomly generated points. And if the point was inside the circle, it was colored one thing. And if it was outside the circle, it was colored a different thing. And so what we would do is, like, if we had a class called, oh yeah, I guess I should share my screen. It's a good point. Okay. So there, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so if we had a class called, like, doesn't even matter what it's called, but it's called like blah. Okay. If we add in a method called __ contains, okay, then there's a self and an other. Okay. Just by adding in this method, it automatically makes blah a subclass of container. Container is like this built-in Python thing. Okay. And so you would ask yourself, well, wait, I thought in order to make subclasses, I would have to do something like this. I'd have to do blah, and then I'd put in container like this, right? Well, that's the whole thing about duck typing, is when Python sees that you have a method called __ contains, it says, oh, you must mean that you want to make this a subclass of container. So I'm going to just automatically do that for you. Okay, so the whole concept is if it walks like a duck and acts like a duck. Okay, so basically what we would do here with this contains method is this is where we would try to see whether this object contains, you know, something else. Okay, and what this allows us to do is it allows us to use the in operator, if you remember that. Okay, so for example, maybe what I'll do just for this quick example is I'll say, okay, I'm going to make a constructor here for blah. Again, this is all just kind of nonsense, but it's going to accept two numbers, an A and a B. Okay, and so I'll do self.a equals A and self.b equals B. Okay, and maybe what we'll say is we'll say, all right, a blah object is inside another blah object if both A and B are less than the object you're comparing it to, or something like that. Okay, again, that's total nonsense, but I'm just trying to think of like a really ridiculous quick example off of the top of my head. And it doesn't even have to be another blah object. It could be a completely different object, right? So, you know, I could create a second object called a foo, and I could say, well, a foo is inside of a blah if it meets these following criteria or whatever. Okay. But so basically, if I ask you a question about duck typing, it's going to have something to do with correctly writing this method, right? And so I might say, okay, well, you know, let's let's just go ahead and compare, like, if other dot A is less than self dot A and other dot B is less than self dot B, then return true, else. Okay, so maybe that, for argument's sake, is my duck typing method. Okay, well, now what we can do is we can say, all right, B1 equals blah 7 comma, well, we'll do like 10 comma 10. All right, and then we'll do B2 equals blah 9 comma 9. B3 equals blah 11 comma 11. B4 equals blah, we'll do 11 comma, well, we'll do 20 comma 1. And then we'll do maybe B5 as 1 comma 20. Okay, so you've got a bunch of different things to test. Okay, so the first question is, is B2 in B1? Okay, so the way that this works is with this contains method, I'm going to say, all right, B2, so I'm going to say 9, 9. Okay, that's going to be my other, and B1 is going to be myself. Okay, so is 9, 9 in 10, 10? Well, based on my definition here, okay, 9 is less than 10 and 9 is less than 10. So this should print out true for the first one. Okay. My second one, B3 in B1, should print out false because 11 is bigger than 10. Okay. And according to my definition, both numbers have to be smaller. Okay. Is B4 in B1? Well, no, because only one of the numbers is smaller and the other is not. Okay. And finally, is B5 in B1? Okay. Again, no, because this number is large. 20 is larger than 10, even though 1 is smaller than 10. Okay. So if this is working correctly, this should print true, false, false, false. All right. So we'll see if that's true, or we'll see if that's correct, I should say. All right. Got too many windows open here. All right, so Python. Let me just go ahead and activate my virtual environment. I don't actually need to for this example, but okay. And of course, I have a syntax error. I definitely forgot my colon right here. All right, and just as I predicted, the answers are true, false, false, false. Okay, so that is a very, very simple example of the, a duck typing kind of a question. All right, multi-classes. All right, create a new file. All right, so let's say that I had a class called planet. All right, and in here I have name, and then I have moons. So I guess I should put it self moons. Okay. So we'll do self.name equals name, self.moons equals moons. Okay. Maybe actually I'll just do moon to keep it easy for right now. Okay. And then let's say that I have a class called moon. Okay. And so I'll have self name and I don't know, size. It doesn't really matter. Whatever the attributes are for this. So then I have self.name equals name, self.size equals size. Okay. And so this example right here of this multi-class is that I am intending for this particular attribute here to actually be a moon object, not a string. Oh, I didn't change the attribute. Yes, thank you. That's a good catch. So up in here, I need to change this to moon so that they all match. Okay, right? And so I should be able to do something like this, right? Like M1 equals moon, and we'll call this moon. And I'll make its size 100. I don't know what that size actually is. And then I can say P1 equals planet Earth. Okay. And then for my moon, it's going to be M1. Okay. So you see how I did that? And so this, again, I'm not going to launch into a long example. You can go back and review the assignments where we did this kind of stuff, but probably what needs to happen in here, right, is that I might need to check to make sure that this incoming argument actually is a moon object, right? Using the is instance kind of stuff. I know we've had questions about this before. All right. So go back and review that. And if I had said that I want moon to be a private variable, then I might need to do some kind of defensive copying, right? I might need to, do a deep copy or something like that of moon to make sure that I don't violate my information hiding, okay? And again, I refer you back to previous material in the class for how you would do that. But so this is the kind of thing that, you might see a question about in terms of multiple classes. So the idea is that you have one class and then one of the attributes in there is another class, and it's possible, here's a hint, it's likely that rather than make it this simple, I'll probably make it something like this, where moons is actually a list of moons, right? So in other words, I might have something instead of these, I might have moon 1 is like Io, and moon 2 is, I don't know the names of any of the other moons of Jupiter, so we'll say another Jupiter moon. And maybe this one has a size of 200. Okay, and then so my planet would be not just a single moon object, but it would in fact be a list of moon objects, right? So I can guarantee you that there is the question that has to do with multiple classes involves this being a list rather than a single. So to be a list of moon objects rather than, something as simple as what I just showed you. Okay. And again, you would have to first check to make sure that this is a list. And then you'd have to go through the list and make sure that all of the objects in the list are actually moon objects. And if that is correct, then you go ahead and do this, set it. Okay. All right. So I hope that clears that up. That's duck typing in multi-classes. Did that answer your questions? Sure, no problem. Anybody else have anything you would like to discuss? No other questions? No other comments? No other anything? Short answer questions. Yes, there are short answer questions. What do you want to know about them? I hope you're typing something. Similar questions that is gonna be in quiz. These are not questions that you guys are asking. What is it you want to know? Somebody said short answer questions. I have no idea what that means. What do you want to know about the short answer questions? And then somebody said similar questions that is gonna be in the quiz. I don't know what that, I don't know what you're asking. Are you asking, are there similar questions to the quiz? I mean, they're completely different questions. They're similar in the fact that you will have to write Python code, and they talk about concepts that we learned in this class, but Okay. You said 3 to 5 lines of code. I'm wondering if you can show some similar questions. I could give you an example. Okay. Here's an example right here. I'll just give you one right off the top of my head. Okay. Suppose you are creating a class to measure, to keep track of information about televisions. Okay. All televisions have a name and a model number. The question is, write a constructor for this class. Okay. So that would be an example, right? So for that, you would do def underscore init underscore self, comma, manufacturer, comma, serial number, colon, self.manufacturer equals manufacturer, self.model number equals model number or serial number, whatever I said. And that's it. That's the whole question. Okay. Did that answer your question? Yeah, I mean, so they're going to be very, very short, right? Like, it's instead of having you write tons and tons of code, it'll be, like I might say, here's another example. Okay. I might say, let me share my screen again. Okay, so going back to this planet and moon example, I might say, hold on. I might say something like this. So you wouldn't be able to see this stuff here. All you would see is this. All right. Given the following planet and moon definitions here, and assuming that self.moon is a list of moon objects, instantiate a planet called Jupiter that has 2 moons, one called Io of size 100 and one called another Jupiter moon of size 200. Write the code for that, right? And so your answer would be that. Okay. All right. That's another example of just, 3 lines worth of code. All right. Or I might say, create a subclass of an exception that does something, right? We learned how to do that. You can definitely do that in less than 3 lines of code. Okay. So those are just kind of some examples of, some things that you would have. But no, again, for any of the ones that are short answer, if you do more than 3 to 5 lines of code, then you've probably not done it correctly. Okay. All right. So anything else? Anyone? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, nobody seems to have any more questions. So I will say good luck on the final exam. Please make sure that you get there on time. You need to log into the exam between 7 and 7:15. Don't log in at 7:16. Don't log in at 7:18. Don't log in at 7:25. Okay. I think I actually set it up so you can go in at like 6:55 or something like that if you want to get early, but make sure that you're there early. I'll be monitoring it in case there's any kind of hiccups like happened during the last quiz, to make sure everybody can get in. But make sure that you get in there, get it going, and we'll see how it goes. Will there be a curve if most of us do bad? Okay. There will be a curve if it's not going to be whether most of you do bad. Basically, everybody would have to do bad. But I have 2 or 3 students who are doing very, very well in this class. I have one student who's basically gotten, high 90s on all of the quizzes. And I expect this person will also do very, very well on the final. And so I don't expect there to be any kind of a curve. I feel like if people would just follow the lectures, because here's the thing that I noticed. I actually track who watches the videos and like who clicks on assignments and when people click on things. Okay. Despite my pleas with you guys to like go in, practice the Python every day, even if it's for just 10 or 15 minutes, get an early start on thing, ask questions. Nobody listens to me. Okay. You guys don't do that. And I'm sorry to say that, like, maybe it's that you're tired. Maybe it's that you have other things going on in your life. Maybe it's that you hate Python. I don't know what the reason is, but in terms of like the effort level, I would say, and this is true of almost every time I teach this class, most people just really don't put in that much effort, right? You want to be able to read something once, memorize it for 5 or 10 minutes, and regurgitate it on an exam. And this class is not like that, all right? You have to actually use logic and problem solving. And the only way to get better at that is to practice. And I've said that from the beginning of class: practice, practice, practice. You need to practice. The problem is that people who aren't doing well in this class, a large percentage of the time, are not practicing. They're not doing what I said. So, clearly people are not asking questions, okay? Because the vast majority, I've maybe gotten a total of 5 or 10 emails asking for not even 10, 5 or less this entire semester from students asking for a one-on-one help with something, right? So if we kick out because of network or computer problems, I have no idea. I've never, I don't know why that should be a problem. I guess what I would say is try it and hopefully it lets you back in. I'm not exactly sure how the Respondus browser works or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure. Yeah, sorry. I don't know the answer to that question. Okay. Well, at any rate, rant over. Please make sure that you get to the exam on time. Is there partial? Yep. All of my questions always have partial credit. I even gave you guys partial credit on those ridiculous multiple answer things, even though like it was possible that you would get 1 or 2 points out of 5 when you got literally the entire question wrong. So yes, I always give partial credit, 100%. Okay. All right. Any other questions before I do my sign-off speech again? And I think we're going to end, and then somebody asks another question anyway. No? Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't done it already, fill out the course evaluation, especially if you really didn't like me, you should probably say that so that they don't bring me back. Okay. I would strongly recommend that you do that. And if you really, really like me and think that I'm great, you should fill that out. Actually, no matter what, whether you liked me, hated me, or didn't care about me, you should fill it out and let them know so that they know. Okay. It's really the only way to, make sure that good professors are rewarded and bad professors can't. Okay. And I have absolutely no problem if everybody thinks that I'm terrible, never teaching again. So please make sure you fill out your evaluations. All right. Thank you guys. And again, good luck on the final. And, I'll get it graded as quickly as I can, and then we'll get it out there. You guys also have a good evening.